Denise came home at 7:30 in the evening. The key turned, the door didn't open. He pressed the handle, then again, rang the bell. I opened the door a minute later, tea in one hand, notebook in the other. "Good evening. Valentina Sergeyevna, my key isn't working." The lock was changed. "Come in, please." He came in. On the hallway table lay a notebook, a regular squared one, open, a pen beside it. "Sign here, please, and write the purpose of your visit." "What notebook?" "Visitor log." I turned to the right page. "Marina signed on Tuesday. It's simple." Denise looked at the page. One entry in neat handwriting. "Marina Denisovna, Tuesday, 1802. Purpose: monitoring medication schedule. Duration: 23 minutes. And a signature. "What is this?" From the kitchen came the voice of the smart speaker, pleasant, calm. "Reminder, Denise, today is your turn to bring Valentina Sergeyevna a glass of water at 2000 hours. Time remaining 18 minutes. Denise looked at the speaker, then at me. "Valentina Sergeyevna, yes? What is happening here?" I set my cup on the table, picked up the pen, held it out to him. "Sign first, then I'll explain. My name is Valentina Sergeyevna, 68 years old, 32 years as head of the personnel department. I write regulations, job descriptions, and internal procedures well enough that experienced lawyers read them twice. 3 years ago, my husband died. I sat quietly. They took that for weakness. 1 month after Denise told his guests at my table in my apartment over a dinner I had cooked that I don't really understand what I need, they installed a camera at my front door. Motion sensors, a smart speaker, a birthday gift for safety without asking. That was their mistake. Not because it was a bad gift, but because I spent 32 years managing people. I know control systems better than they do. I'll start from the beginning. But first, Dennis did sign the log. Under purpose of visit, he wrote, dinner. I corrected it to Introduction to New Internal Procedures. He didn't argue. Let me go back 3 months. My apartment is on the 4th floor of a building I've lived in since 1984. 3 rooms, a view of the courtyard on one side, the street on the other. My husband Victor and I got it through the factory. He was a shift foreman. I was already heading the personnel department by then, and we waited 4 years on the list. Victor died in March 3 years ago. Heart. Quick. The doctor said he probably didn't feel much. I've held on to that. For the first year, I managed well. Went to work. I was still working then, part-time consulting. Cooked, saw friends, kept the apartment the way Victor liked it, which is to say, orderly but lived in. Books on every surface, the old armchair by the window where he read in the evenings and where I read now. Marina called every Sunday. She and Dennis had been living with me for 2 years by then. They'd moved in after their lease ended and were saving for something bigger. I hadn't minded. The apartment is large enough. Dennis is quiet. Marina is my daughter. The second year, things shifted in a way I didn't name immediately. It started small, the way things always start. The vitamins arrived on a Wednesday in October. Marina came in with a bag and the particular expression of someone who has done research and would like to be acknowledged for it. She lined up 7 bottles on the kitchen table, wrote out a schedule on a piece of paper, morning, afternoon, evening, with food, without food, not with calcium, not with iron. I watched her do this. I already have vitamins. These are better. I looked into it. She didn't look up from the paper. Your ones are old formula. These have the right bioavailability. My ones were prescribed by my doctor. I know, but the research has moved on. Just try these for a month. You'll feel the difference. She put the schedule on the refrigerator with a magnet, collected her bag, kissed my cheek. "I'll check in Friday to see how you're getting on." She left. I looked at the schedule on the refrigerator, then at my own vitamins, in a row on the windowsill where I'd kept them for 2 years. I took my own vitamins, put Marina's in the cabinet. I didn't mention it on Friday. Neither did she. She checked the bottles without opening them and said, "Good, keep going." I let her believe what she believed. This was, I understand now, a mistake. Not a moral one, a strategic one. I was teaching her that it worked. The armchair left on a Saturday in November. Dennis arrived with a large, flat box, beige, with a logo I didn't recognize, and announced he had found me an orthopedic chair, specifically designed for the elderly, lumbar support, stable armrests, elevated seat for easier standing. He said this while I was sitting in my armchair. My armchair is not beautiful. It's dark green, the upholstery is worn smooth at the arms, and it lists slightly to the left because Victor always sat heavier on that side. I've had it since '89. I read in it every evening. In winter, I put a blanket over my knees and watch the courtyard below through the window. "That armchair can go in the hallway for now," Dennis said, already opening the box. "You'll feel the difference in a week." "Dennis, the foam is medical grade." "Dennis, that's my armchair." He looked up. He had the expression of a man who has prepared for mild resistance and has patience for it. "Valentina Sergeyevna, I understand, but objectively, it's not a question of objectivity. It's my armchair. The new one is better for your back." "My back is fine." He looked at me. I looked at him. He had the look of someone who had decided in advance how this would end. "Just try it for a week." My armchair went to the hallway. The orthopedic chair, beige, firm, elevated, went by the window. I sat in it that evening with my book and looked out at the courtyard and felt like a patient in a waiting room. The armchair stood in the hallway for 3 weeks. I walked past it every day. Neither of us mentioned it. The smart home arrived on my birthday, December the 12th. Marina and Dennis came together, which should have told me something. Dennis carried a large bag. Marina had the expression she gets when she's nervous about a reaction. "We got you something practical," she said, "for safety." The bag contained 1 smart speaker, 4 motion sensors, 1 door camera, 2 smart plugs, and a tablet pre-configured with the monitoring application. Dennis installed everything in an hour and a half. I sat at the kitchen table with tea and watched him work. He explained each device as he went. The speaker would answer questions and set reminders. The motion sensors would alert them if I hadn't moved through the apartment by a certain time. The door camera would show them who rang my bell. Who sees all this? Us, the app. Everything's encrypted. Who has the app? Me and Marina. And the system itself for the automation. Can I turn it off? You don't need to turn it off. That defeats the purpose. I'm asking if I can. He looked up then, had the careful expression of someone explaining something simple to someone who doesn't quite understand it. "Valentina Sergeyevna, we're not trying to spy on you. We want to know you're safe. That's all." I looked at the camera he had just mounted above my front door, pointing at my hallway. "Thank you," I said. "It's a very thoughtful gift." Marina visibly relaxed. Dennis went back to the instructions. I drank my tea. That evening, after they went to bed, I sat in the kitchen for a long time. The smart speaker's light pulsed gently on the windowsill. Blue, slow. I thought about the vitamins on the refrigerator schedule, the armchair in the hallway, the camera above my door. The conversation at the dinner table 2 weeks earlier, when Denis had told his colleagues I didn't understand what I needed. At some point I said, quietly, to the empty kitchen, a single word that I will not repeat here, but which accurately described the situation. Then I got up, put on my slippers, went downstairs, and knocked on the door of the apartment below. Grisha opened at 11 in the evening in a t-shirt and socks, instant noodles in hand, with the slightly startled expression of someone who receives very few visitors and none of them at this hour. Valentina Sergeyevna, is something wrong? Nothing's wrong. I have a question. I looked at the noodles. Do you know anything about smart home systems? He blinked. I mean, generally, yes. Good. Come for lunch tomorrow. I'll make borscht. We'll talk. A pause. That sounds like an offer I probably shouldn't refuse. You're a perceptive young man. I went back upstairs, sat in the orthopedic chair, the armchair was still in the hallway, and thought about job descriptions, about the difference between the authority to monitor and the authority to control, about how, in 32 years of personnel work, I had learned one reliable principle. Whoever writes the procedures runs the room. I had never written procedures for my own apartment. I was going to correct that. Grisha arrived at noon. He ate 2 bowls of borscht and half the bread before we got to business, which I considered appropriate. You shouldn't discuss serious matters on an empty stomach. I explained the situation, all of it. The vitamins, the armchair, the dinner table, the camera. I showed him the smart home application on the tablet Denis had configured. He went through it carefully, the way young programmers go through things, which is to say, silently, with occasional small sounds that indicate either interest or concern. So, I said, when he put the tablet down, can it be reconfigured? Technically, yes. He looked at me. What do you want it to do? I had thought about this the night before for approximately 2 hours. Right now, I said, it monitors me for them. I want it to monitor them for me. Grisha was quiet for a moment. The door camera, I said. I want it to alert me when they leave their room. Not the entrance, their door. I want to know their schedule, not the other way around. The motion sensors in the hallway, same principle. And the speaker, I want it on my schedule, my reminders, my calendar. He nodded slowly. And the lock? That too. One-time codes. I generate them. No code, no entry. That's your lock, though, right? Your apartment. My apartment, my lock. He was quiet again. Then, can I ask, what are you going to do with all this? I poured him more tea. I'm going to introduce some structure, I said. They're very keen on structure. He looked at me for a long moment. Valentina Sergeyevna, are you going to bureaucratize your family? I'm going to apply 32 years of professional expertise to my domestic situation. A pause. Yes. He thought about this. I'm going to need more borscht. I gave him more borscht. We got to work. The visitor log was the first measure. A standard squared notebook, the kind I used for meeting minutes my entire career. I designed the form myself. Date, time of arrival, name of visitor, purpose of visit, duration, signature of visitor. I placed it on the hallway table with a pen and a small card that said, "Please sign upon entry. Thank you for your cooperation." Marina arrived on Tuesday at 6 in the evening to check the vitamins. She did this twice a week, which I had not previously documented, but now intended to. She read the card, read the notebook, looked at me. Mom, what is this? Visitor log. Standard practice in any organized household. We live here. You're registered here, yes. But the apartment is in my name, so for clarity of records, if you just sign. Marina signed. Because what else do you do when your mother holds out a pen with the expression of a woman who has managed HR disputes for 3 decades? Under purpose of visit, she wrote, "Came to see Mom." I read it, nodded. "Very good. Duration I'll fill in when you leave." She stood in the hallway. "Mom, this isn't normal. Neither is installing a camera in someone's apartment without asking." "Tea?" She had tea. She didn't mention the camera again. Neither did I. The QR codes followed the following week. Grisha spent one evening reconfiguring the smart lock. Now the door opened only with a one-time code generated by my phone and sent in advance. No code, no entry. Even with a key, because I'd had the cylinder changed. The first time Dennis arrived without warning was a Thursday. He rang the bell. Nothing happened. He tried his key. The lock didn't respond. He called my phone. "Valentina Sergeyevna, the door isn't opening." "I didn't send you a code." "What code?" "Access code. You know how your office building works. You showed me the system once. Very sensible security model. I've implemented something similar here." "For your own apartment." "For my own apartment. Hold on, I'll send it now." The code arrived. Dennis entered. On the hallway table, the visitor log, open to the current date. "Purpose of visit?" He stood in the hallway, looking at me with the expression I recognized from the vitamin conversation. The patient look. The "this is manageable" look. "Valentina Sergeyevna, I live here. You're staying here temporarily. The apartment is mine. I'm not asking for much, just a signature and a brief note." A pause. "It's for my records." He wrote, "Came home, signed, said nothing further." I wrote the time in the duration column and left it open. He noticed, said nothing. The speaker activated from the kitchen. "Reminder, Dennis, today is your turn to bring Valentina Sergeyevna a glass of water at 2000 hours. Time remaining, 44 minutes. He turned toward the kitchen, turned back. "Did you reprogram that?" I updated the household schedule. "Your task is the water. Marina has Tuesday evenings and the Thursday pharmacy run. It's all written down." A very long pause. "There's a schedule." "A household schedule, yes. Would you like a copy? I printed extras." I heard him in the hallway, not moving, for approximately 30 seconds. Then he went to the kitchen. At 2000 hours, he brought me a glass of water. I signed the small task completion slip I had prepared. Task completed, logged dot asterisk, and handed it to him. He looked at the slip. "What do I do with this?" "Keep it for your records." He put it in his pocket. I returned to my book. The internal procedures document took me 3 days to write. Not because it was complicated, I could have drafted it in an afternoon, but because I wanted it to be right, precise, unambiguous, the way good procedural documents always are. 2 pages, single-spaced. Section headings, numbered clauses. Section 1, Hours of Access. Apartment accessible to residents Monday through Sunday, 1000 to 2100 hours. Exceptions by prior arrangement, minimum 48 hours in advance. Section 2, Common Areas. Kitchen and living room available for shared use. Residents' personal items, including but not limited to armchairs, books, and decorative objects, are not to be relocated without written authorization from apartment owner. Section 3, Discussions concerning the apartment owner. Any discussion of the apartment owner's living arrangements, medical situation, or future plans shall be conducted with the apartment owner present and shall require a written agenda submitted no less than 48 hours prior. Section 4. Installed technology. All monitoring devices currently installed in the apartment are subject to review and reconfiguration at the apartment owner's discretion. Asterisk. I printed 3 copies, left 1 on the kitchen table, slid 1 under the bedroom door, filed 1 in my folder. Marina found hers at breakfast. She read it again. Mom, you wrote a regulatory document for the apartment. Internal procedures, standard format. I poured tea. Section 3 is the one I draw your attention to. She read Section 3. This is about the dinner. Among other things, yes. Mom, Denis didn't mean Section 3 doesn't address intent. It addresses process. I sat down across from her. In my field, we always separated the two. Intent is personal. Process is documented. Marina held the paper. She had an expression I hadn't seen in a while. Not the patient one, not the this is manageable one. Something younger. Something that remembered being 23 in my kitchen asking for advice. Mom, are you angry at us? I thought about that honestly. I was. A pause. Now I'm being constructive. She almost smiled, controlled it. The armchair, she said. Section 2, Clause 4. I'll tell Denis. Thank you. We drank tea in silence. Not a bad silence. A thinking silence. Denis' encounter with the procedures document was less philosophical. He read it standing in the kitchen. I watched him go through Section 1, Section 2, Section 3. His face did several things, none of which I will describe in detail because I am not an unkind person, merely a precise one. Valentina Sergeyevna. Yes? This is... He stopped, started again. This document isn't legally binding. No. Neither was installing a camera in my apartment without my knowledge. We seem to be operating on a basis of mutual, informal arrangements. He put the document on the table. I was trying to help. I know. The home system, the chair, all of it. I was trying to make things easier for you. Dennis, I set down my cup. I have worked with people for 32 years. I know what helping looks like, and I know what managing looks like. A pause. You've been managing me since Victor died, with the best intentions, but managing nonetheless. He was quiet. The camera, I said. You put it there without asking, in my home. For your safety, for your peace of mind. Those are different things. I picked up the document. I don't enjoy this any more than you do, but apparently we needed procedures, so now we have them. He looked at the paper, looked at me. For the first time in several months, he looked at me the way you look at someone you have perhaps underestimated. The armchair comes back today, he said. Thank you. The camera, I'll think about the camera. Section 4, take your time. He took the document to the bedroom. I heard him and Marina talking, not loudly, not in the third person, which was an improvement. That evening, the armchair came back from the hallway. I sat in it with my book. The left side still lists slightly, the way it always has. The camera came down 2 days later. Dennis unscrewed it himself and set it on the kitchen table without comment. I signed a small note. Camera removed per mutual agreement, date noted, and filed it. He looked at the note. Do you archive everything? 32 years of habit. He almost said something, decided not to, took the camera to the hallway. The consultant invoice was an accident, Or rather, it began as an impulse and became a principle. It was a Friday evening. Marina was sitting at the kitchen table after work, tired, talking about a problem she was having with a colleague, a passive-aggressive woman named Svetlana, who undermined her in meetings and then denied it. I listened, asked questions, suggested 3 approaches I had used in similar situations over the years. Marina said, "That's actually really helpful, thank you." I said, "Of course." Then I got up, went to my room, came back with a piece of paper. "What's this?" "Invoice for professional consultation. Personnel conflict management. 40 minutes. Standard specialist rate. I've discounted it. Family rate." "Mom, you don't have to pay it." I sat down. "But I want you to hold it and think about something." She looked at the paper. "For 20 years, you came to me with problems. Work problems, Denise problems, life problems. I helped. That's not a transaction. That's a mother." A pause. "But 2 weeks ago, your husband told your guests that I don't understand what I need. At my table. Over dinner, I cooked." Another pause. "If my advice has value when you want it, then perhaps my opinion about my own life has value too." Marina held the invoice. She wasn't crying yet. Almost. "Mom, I didn't know he was going to say that. I know you didn't. I should have said something when he said it. I should have..." "Yes." A long pause. "I'm sorry." I took the invoice back, folded it, put it in my folder, not as a document to be used, but as a document to be remembered. "Tea?" "Yes, please." We sat in the kitchen until 10 o'clock. It was the first real conversation we'd had in months. Not the kind where one person talks and the other manages. The kind where 2 people actually talk. Svetlana from Marina's office, I should mention, had a thoroughly documented performance review procedure applied to her situation within the week. Marina reported that it worked. I was not surprised. The last official act of what I privately called the restructuring period was the formal decommissioning of the visitor log. 3 weeks after the procedures document, I called Marina and Dennis to the kitchen table, made tea, put out the good biscuits. "I'm closing the log." I put the notebook in the middle of the table. "I want you to read the last entry." They read it. Final entry. Duration of restructuring period, 22 days. Outcome. Armchair restored to original position. Camera removed by mutual agreement. Internal procedures acknowledged by both residents. Consultation invoice filed but not collected. Visitor log, purpose fulfilled. Dennis read it twice. "Purpose fulfilled," he said. "Yes." "What was the purpose?" I looked at him, then at Marina. "To remind you," I said, "that I'm still here. Not as a project, not as a situation to be managed, as a person, with a job history and opinions and a very specific armchair that lists to the left because of 40 years of use, and which I have no intention of replacing." Dennis looked at the table, then up. "We were wrong," he said, plainly, without the careful tone. "About the dinner, about the camera, about all of it." "Yes." "I'm sorry, Valentina Sergeyevna." This was the first time in 3 years he had apologized for anything directly, without framework, without process. I noted the quality of it. "Thank you, Dennis." Marina was crying, which she had been holding back for approximately 15 minutes, and which I had been observing with the peripheral awareness of a woman who raised her. I pushed the biscuits toward her. "The smart speaker can stay," I said. "I've grown fond of it. The reminders are genuinely useful. The water at 8, Denise said. A pause. Does that stay in the schedule? I considered. That can be voluntary. He nodded. I believe he continued to bring the water most evenings for the following month, voluntarily, without a slip or a log entry. I didn't mention it. Some things are better left undocumented. They moved out in the spring, not because things had gone badly, because they'd found an apartment, 3 rooms, 1 metro stop away. Marina sent me the photos on a Tuesday evening. Good light, she said. Room for a proper home office for Denis. You're not offended? I'm proud of you, and I'll miss having you here. A pause. These are not contradictions. On moving day, I made a large pot of borscht and sent half of it with them in containers. Denis carried his orthopedic chair into the new apartment. He had, evidently, grown attached to it. Marina hung a print in the kitchen that had been on my wall, which I had told her she could take. When they left, I stood in the hallway. The apartment was quiet in the particular way it is when it has recently had people in it, and now doesn't. On the table, my visitor log, closed. In the window, my smart speaker, light pulsing its slow blue. I moved my armchair back to its exact original position by the window, sat down, put a blanket over my knees. The speaker said gently, "Good evening, Valentina Sergeyevna. Tuesday. Clear skies. No scheduled visitors." "Thank you," I said. I opened my book. The courtyard below was quiet. The building across had its lights on in the ordinary evening way. Some windows bright, some dark, people inside their own lives. 3 years after Victor died, I had sat quietly for too long and let the quiet be interpreted as absence. That was my error. Not a moral one, a strategic one. I had corrected it. The armchair still lists to the left. I have no intention of changing that either. I should describe the speaker reminders in more detail because they became something of a local legend in the apartment. Grisha had helped me program a full household schedule. It covered not just the water, that was only the beginning. The schedule included morning greeting to the apartment's residents with a weather update and a brief note on whose turn it was for various household tasks. An afternoon reminder about whatever was happening that evening, and a rotation of what I called informational segments, short items I recorded and scheduled to play at mealtimes. The informational segments were Denise's particular trial. The first one played on a Wednesday at dinner. The speaker said, in its pleasant tone, "Did you know Article 288 of the Civil Code of the Russian Federation establishes that the owner of residential premises exercises the right of ownership, use, and disposal of their property in accordance with its purpose. The owner determines the conditions of use of the premises." Denis put down his fork. "Did you program the speaker to recite property law at dinner?" "It's educational. I thought we'd enjoy learning together." The following Wednesday. "On this day in history, in 1922, the first labor code of the RSFSR was adopted, establishing workers' rights and the authority of supervisory personnel in the management of labor relations." Why is it telling us about the labor code? I find history interesting, don't you? The Wednesday after. Reminder, a person is not a project. A person is a person. This has been your Wednesday reflection. That one I wrote myself. Denis sat with it for a moment. "Valentina Sergeyevna, are you narrating at us?" The speaker is providing household information. I picked up my tea. If some of it is personally resonant, I consider that an added benefit. Marina made a sound that she converted quickly into a cough. The formal task rotation chart deserves mention as well. I had designed it on graph paper, a proper grid, days along the top, tasks down the side. Each task had a brief description and a time estimate. Household tasks, grocery run, pharmacy, taking out recycling, wiping down kitchen surfaces, vacuuming, shared areas. Personal assistance tasks, bringing water at 8, confirming evening plans, checking whether I needed anything from the shops. The personal assistance column was, I will admit, largely illustrative. Denise studied the chart for a long time. These personal assistance tasks, yes. Confirming evening plans, that's, you want us to check with you before we go out? Simply to let me know, courtesy really, as a household. We've been going out without telling you for 2 years. Yes. The chart reflects what a well-organized household looks like. Whether it's fully implemented is flexible. He looked at the chart again. Checking whether Valentina Sergeyevna needs anything from the shops. This is a daily task. Every other day. It says every other day. Valentina Sergeyevna. Denise, are you running us? I considered the question. I'm providing structure. You said I needed structure. I found I had more than enough to share. Marina took a photo of the chart on her phone. I later found out she sent it to her friend Oksana with the caption, "My mother has become the final boss." I considered this an accurate characterization. Week 3 brought what I think of as the tender. It was Denise's idea, not his intentional idea, but one he prompted inadvertently. He mentioned at dinner, casually, that he had read an article about services for elderly residents, companies that provided assistance with shopping, errands, companionship. There are quite good agencies, he said. If you ever felt you wanted additional support, I looked at him. Like what kind of support? Just practical things. If you needed someone to help with heavier shopping or just to check in. Dennis, are you suggesting I hire a stranger to bring me a glass of water? No, because I have you and Marina on the household schedule for that, fully documented. He looked at Marina. Marina looked at her dinner. That was a joke, I said, mostly. But the idea stayed with me, not the agency, the concept. The following morning, I typed up a small announcement and posted it in the building's general chat group, which I had joined 3 weeks earlier when Grisha showed me how. Announcement from Apartment 41. As part of household restructuring, I am accepting applications for the position of official designated water bringer, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 p.m. Compensation? Homemade baked goods, rotating selection. Requirements? Reliability, willingness to sign visitor log, sense of humor. Serious inquiries only. By afternoon, I had 4 responses. One was from Grisha, who said he was already on the informal list and wanted priority consideration. One was from the woman on the 6th floor who said she'd been following the building chat and thought I seemed interesting and could she come for tea sometime, regardless of the position. One was from a retired school teacher on the 2nd floor named Zoya Ivanovna, who said she walked past my floor every morning and had been curious who lived there. And one was from a 12-year-old whose mother sent a message immediately after saying, please ignore that he had his own phone now, and she was very sorry. I replied to all of them. Grisha got the position. Zoya Ivanovna came for tea the following Tuesday and stayed 3 hours and told me the complete history of everyone in the building going back 15 years, which was more comprehensive than anything Semyonich had provided, and which I transcribed into a new notebook afterward. Denis found the exchange on my phone. I had left it on the kitchen table, and read the announcement and the replies. He sat down. You ran a tender. I accepted applications. It's not quite the same. For someone to bring you water. The position was broader than that. Read the requirements. He read the requirements. Sense of humor, he said. Essential qualification. A long pause. Valentina Sergeyevna. Something different in his voice now. Not the patient tone, not the managed. Are you enjoying this? I thought about the question honestly. Yes, I said. I think I am. He was quiet for a moment, then very quietly, good. It was the first time he had said anything like that, without the careful expression, without the patient tone, just good. I filed it in the folder I keep in my mind for things that matter. I should say something about Grisha, who appears in this story as a technical assistant, but was, in practice, considerably more than that. He came for borscht 3 more times during the restructuring period. Each time we talked, not just about the systems, but about other things. His degree, which he was finishing in May, his parents, who lived in Chelyabinsk and called every Sunday and sometimes twice on Sundays. The fact that he had been eating instant noodles for dinner 4 nights a week because cooking felt complicated when you were cooking for one. On his 4th visit, I taught him to make borscht. He took notes on his phone and texted me a photo 2 days later of his first attempt, which was, honestly, reasonable for a first try. Not bad, I texted back. My mom would disagree. Your mom isn't here. I'm here. Not bad. He sent back a single emoji that I took to mean gratitude. The day Denise brought the water without the reminder, voluntarily, without any scheduling, he passed Grisha in the hallway. They had met several times by then. Grisha said hello. Denise said hello. There was a brief pause. She okay? She's doing very well, Grisha said. I think she always was. Dennis nodded, went inside. I heard this from the kitchen. I did not mention that I heard it. Some things are better left unlogged. There was one evening I haven't mentioned yet because it belongs somewhere between the restructuring and the resolution and doesn't fit cleanly into either. Marina came home late on a Thursday, later than usual, tired in the way that suggests the tiredness started before the workday. She dropped her bag in the hallway, didn't sign the log, which I no longer required, but which I noted she glanced at out of habit. She came to the kitchen. I was at the table with tea and a crossword. She sat down across from me without saying anything. I poured her tea without asking. We sat for a while. Svetlana again? Without looking up from the crossword. No, actually. Svetlana's been fine since the procedure thing. A pause. Something else. Tell me. She wrapped her hands around the cup, looked at the table. I've been thinking about something. Since all of this. She gestured vaguely at the apartment, at the absence of the log, at everything. About when you were younger, when I was growing up, how you were. How was I? Capable. She said it like she was finding the right word. Like you always knew what you were doing. I always thought, she always knows, she'll manage. And then after Papa died, I thought, that I didn't anymore? Yes. I thought something had broken. And I got scared. And Dennis
Dennis doesn't know how to be scared without making a plan. Yes, she almost laughed. Exactly that. I put down the crossword. Marina, do you remember when you were 11 and you broke the kitchen window? The small one by the sink? She looked up. With the football. With the football.
You were inside. You kicked it at exactly the wrong angle. I heard the sound from the bedroom. I picked up my tea. I came to the kitchen and you were standing there with the football, looking at the window, and you said, "I'll fix it." I remember. I taped cardboard over it. You did, for 3 days, until we could get someone to replace the glass. A pause. Do you remember what I said to you? She thought about it. You said something was broken, but I was fine. That was more important. Yes. A long pause. Something broke when your father died, I said. It's still a little broken. That's honest. But I am fine. I have always been fine. I just needed you to see that, and not the other way around. Marina was quiet for a long time. I should have asked, she said finally. Yes. Instead of just doing things. The vitamins, the chair, all of it. You were scared. Scared people do things without asking. I reached across the table and took her hand briefly. I know that. I also know that I let it go on too long because I didn't want to make a fuss. We both made errors. Mom? The procedures document. Was that you making a fuss? I considered the question. That, I said, was 32 years of professional expertise making a fuss. There's a difference in quality. She laughed, the real kind, surprised out of her, the laugh she's had since she was a child that starts as if she didn't mean to. The water reminder at 8, she said when she stopped laughing. Voluntary now. Dennis brings it anyway. He doesn't say anything. He just brings it. I know. Why do you think he does that? I thought about what Grisha had said in the hallway, about how I had always been fine. Because, I said, I think he is trying in the way he knows how, which is not always the right way, but it's trying. Marina nodded slowly. He's not bad, she said. No, he's not bad. He's just very organized about things that shouldn't be organized. A pause. A professional hazard. I've known many people like that. You were like that. I was exactly like that. I was also 63 years old once and convinced I knew what was best for everyone. I picked up the crossword again. The difference is the paperwork. She laughed again, finished her tea, stayed another hour. When she went to bed, she said goodnight in the way she used to say it when she was young, standing in the doorway for a moment before actually going, as if she wasn't quite ready to stop talking. I said goodnight, went back to the crossword. Some things return. Not everything breaks. A note on the armchair because I feel it deserves one. The armchair is dark green, acquired in the year 1989 from a furniture cooperative that no longer exists. The upholstery on the right arm is worn through to the fabric underneath in a small oval patch that developed in the mid-90s when Victor had a habit of resting his thumb there while reading. The left side sits lower than the right because he always sat heavier on that side, and because 34 years of use do not leave a thing unchanged. I sit in it differently than he did. I am lighter, and I tend to pull my legs up, which Victor found untidy, but never actually objected to. In winter, I use a wool blanket that was his mother's. In summer, just the armchair itself by the open window with whatever I'm reading. Dennis's orthopedic chair had none of this. It was a good chair, well-made, firm, the kind of chair that is good for backs and neutral for everything else. He took it with him when they moved. It is, I hope, serving him well. My armchair lists to the left. I have no intention of changing this. It is not a flaw. It is 34 years of someone sitting in it, and then the years after, and the particular way those years settle into things. When Zoya Ivanovna from the second floor visited for tea, she became a regular Thursday visitor in the months that followed. She sat in the armchair once and said, "This is a very comfortable chair." I said, "Yes, it is." She said, "You can feel it's been well used." I said, "Yes, you can." She nodded, as if this explained something. Perhaps it does. Final note, because there should be one. 6 months after the restructuring period ended, Dennis called me. Not Marina, Dennis, which was unusual. He said he had a question about a personnel situation at work. A subordinate who was, he said, not responding well to feedback. I asked him to describe the situation. He described it. I listened, asked 3 questions. Then I gave him my professional assessment, which took about 8 minutes and which was, I believe, correct. He was quiet for a moment. "That's really useful. Thank you." "Of course. You're good at this." "I know." A pause. "Valentina Sergeyevna. I'm sorry. About everything. I said it before, but I mean it more now, I think, than I did then." "I know that too." "Can I ask, the procedures document, the log, the reminders, did you actually enjoy it?" I thought about the tender announcement in the building chat, about Grisha's borscht photo, about Zoya Ivanovna in the armchair saying, "You can feel it's been well used." "Yes," I said. "I genuinely did." I figured, and I could hear, down the phone line, that he was smiling slightly. "The water at 8, if I came by on a Tuesday. Bring a good reason for the visit log, and yes. The log is gone. There's always a new notebook." He laughed. It was brief and slightly startled, the laugh of a man who doesn't laugh often and occasionally surprises himself. "Tuesday," he said. "Tuesday," I said. I hung up. The smart speaker pulsed blue on the windowsill. "Good evening, Valentina Sergeyevna. Thursday. Light rain expected overnight. No obligations." "Thank you." I opened my book. The armchair held me the way it always does, slightly to the left, exactly right.